Maybe I should just hire a presenter to do the talking for me. I'll take the photos and they can do the talking. So today I've come down to the Gold Coast to meet a collaborator for a documentary project I'm working on at the moment, but I've come down a couple of hours early so that I can just take a wander around and see if I can do a bit of street photography. So let's see what happens. So I'm done for the day. I think I actually got some decent photos, although I don't really dare say until I get back home and look at them on the computer. So I'm going to grab the car and I'll see you back home. Alright, so I'm back home and I've had a bit of time to have a look at the photos, and so let's see what I got. I started out on the beach, as you would, at a place called Surfers Paradise, and I saw a couple of surfers walking along the beach and I thought, hey, there could be an interesting photo here. And I captured this moment here. Now for me, this is a bit of a miss still. It's a kind of cool moment which almost has a little bit of a story that makes it interesting, but not quite. You can see the guy in blue here looking across to the woman who's just putting her towel out. But I think with this distance here between the two of them, it doesn't quite work. You can't really see that he's looking in that direction because he's just a little too far away. And then with that big distance between them, there's not really a strong enough of a connection there. Had I come around more to the right and a little closer to the two surfers, that would have really brought the distance between the surfers and the woman down, would have been closer to the surfers so that you could have seen that the guy was actually looking in that direction, and it may have told the story a little bit better. So for me, not a great image, but hey, you know, it was the first image of the day, so it was a start. So then I saw three guys who were, I think, from Brazil, further down on the beach, and they were just levitating a ball with the power of their mind. No, but anyway, that's what it looks like in this photo. But yeah, I shot them playing around for a little bit. I did like this one here where it kind of looks like the guy's just balancing the ball on his foot, kind of showing off to his two friends, rather than in the middle of actually kicking it. For me, it's kind of cool, but I wasn't really getting anything amazing on the beach. So I just decided that I'd move on, and I started wandering more into the built-up area just beside the beach. But then I discovered this place where the light was moving in a really nice way that I found quite appealing. It was a little bit of a children's playground, and the light was coming down, but there was also some really beautiful shadows, and so I thought, hey, I've got something happening here. There was a woman with blonde hair that was really catching the light and making her pop out of the background, which was in shadows, and I thought, hey, I can make an image here. But I found that there was a rubbish bin or something that was a little bit distracting, and even though I really liked the way that the light was moving in this image here, I just found that bin was too distracting. So I moved in a little bit closer. I got a couple of photos of the woman watching her daughter who was going up and down the slide. And, it's kind of a nice little moment, nice little image, but it wasn't really the magic that I was looking for. So I came around a little bit more and I got this one, which I really like, because the color, the blue of the sky really contrasts with that red of the playground equipment, the red and orange. And then right in the middle of that dark area of shadows, there's a woman who pops out with her blonde hair and white dress. And even though you can't see her face, there's just something about this that I like. I don't know what it is, but for me, there's a feeling. There's this person in solitude, illuminated by this beautiful sunlight. And yeah, I can't describe it. And that's the thing with photography for me, is that, that you may not be able to actually put into words what it is, but if you have some emotional connection with a moment, and you capture that in a way that communicates something of the feel that you can't even understand or describe, well, that's what I see in this one. So I really like this image, and I would say that this is an image that I'm happy with, that I consider a good photograph, a good street photograph. it doesn't necessarily tell a story, but there's a mood or something that it's communicating it's kind of surpassing a cognitive understanding, and there's just something else that I can see. This is why I take photos, because when I try and put things into words, I end up sounding like a rambling fool. So yeah, I'm going to stop that. Let's move on. So I stayed around the area, and there were a couple of moments where there could have been cool pictures, but weren't quite. I mean, this one, I like the way that the woman in that moment of lugging this thing up the stairs. I think that's cool, but the background really distracts, and she gets lost in amongst all of those leaves and branches and things, and there's not enough separation of the woman from the background for this to actually work. And then, you know, a couple of these images where, yeah, it's just people walking, and there's not enough else to really make it an amazing photo. I do like the photos, and I think that, you know, as a capturing that place, that moment in an aesthetically pleasing way, I think that, yeah, these kind of work. But, you know, there's not that magic, that's something extra, the X factor in these images to really say that they're great. When I had lunch, I saw somebody who I really needed to take a street portrait of, so I did. After lunch, I still had a bit of time to kill before I met with the collaborator that I went down there to see. And I took this photo, which I thought was kind of interesting because it kind of looks like that guy's reaching up and physically grabbing the awning, which is actually quite far away and quite high up. So a bit of a forced perspective photo there, which is not something I usually do much of, but yeah, I thought it was interesting, but still not an amazing photo. And then I came to this spot where there was a statue of a rabbit and a dog on a surfboard, which was kind of cool, but the way that the light was coming down, it was just hitting the arm of the rabbit. And so I thought maybe I can have something where I can photograph it in a way that looks like the sculpture is this mysterious arm coming out to grab the people that are walking by. So I took a couple of photos, you know, attempting that. None of them really came off as great images, but I like the idea, and it's something I'm still going to try and do, because I think if I can make it work, it's going to be pretty cool. So I'm actually heading back to the Gold Coast tomorrow again, because I need to do a video interview with a couple of people. So in the time before that, hopefully I'm going to be able to get the image that I'm envisioning in my mind. So that was kind of cool, but didn't quite get there. But you know, it's such a different spot to Brisbane. The feel and the visuals, you know, as a result of the different buildings, and the streets are actually closer together, so it creates, you know, more of that ravine kind of look of the sun coming down through a narrow ravine, rather than Brisbane where the streets are much further apart, so you don't get that same look. This is actually one of the things I miss about Sydney, is it's got a bit of that aesthetic to it. But the colours are quite different in the Gold Coast from Sydney. Sydney, there's a lot older architecture, whereas the Gold Coast is probably a bit newer. So I really like just the setting, and there's definitely a lot of potential to create some interesting images. Not that I necessarily did on the day. Let's keep looking at pictures. This one was kind of cool, but I don't think it's amazing again, because there's not really a connection between the elements in the photo. The woman holding her baby, and then there's a sign for a place selling wine and beer. It's not contrasting enough to have some kind of juxtaposition kind of thing. That's the word I'm looking for. And there's not a close enough connection either for it to work. So they're not different enough for juxtaposition. They're not similar enough for there to be a connection. So it's just two random elements plus the guitar up there. It just, compositionally, I like it, but in terms of the elements having some kind of interaction, it's not happening there. So again, needed to wait for maybe, you know, a guy with a bottle in a brown paper bag to walk by or something like that. And actually there were a couple of guys just past there in the shadow that had that, but they didn't walk through in the light so that I could create a photo like this. So again, it's a near miss. So I went back to the beach, and you know what? This image here, there's nothing amazing about it, but for me, there's just something that I connect with and I like, and I can't explain it. I can't describe. It's nothing about the composition or about the positioning or any interplay of the characters. There's nothing that I should like about it, but I do. So I thought I'd share it with you anyway. And so there you go. A photo that isn't great, but I really like. Yeah, go figure. And then after the beach, I kept wandering through the streets, saw this interesting moment, the guy doing what looks like a Heil Hitler. Not really any interaction or story happening there, but I like guys with bald heads because they really, when the light hits them, they pop out from that background so distinctly and sharply. So I did try and create another couple of images around there, but didn't get anything amazing. But then I turned a corner, and actually my favorite photo of the day is this one, which is actually, it doesn't even have people in it. And I don't know what it is, but just something about the colors and the lines and the sharpness and something about this image just really resonated with me. And I probably took about 5 photos just in this spot trying to play with different compositions. And this is the one that I liked the most. It's, I guess, a city. I don't even know what genre you would put this under, but I'm not big on classification anyway. Yeah, so I love this picture, and I don't know why again, but I do. So there it is. Just as I was wrapping up and ready to go and meet the person that I'd gone down for, I saw this, and this is not a good photo. I have no delusions of this being a good photo, but this spot, I'm like, that koala is so cool and random. And I think that if I hung out in that spot for a little while, maybe something would happen and come together to make a really cool image. So this is one of the spots that I'm really planning on returning to tomorrow, because I think that there's a lot of potential there just because of the random koala, and it could be interesting. I'm not sure what angle I'd go from and what things could happen, who could walk past, or what could play out just in front of it to actually create some kind of story or connection with the koala. I don't know, but I really want to go back and wait for something to happen, because I think there's potential for something quite interesting there. So I was pretty much done, and I saw this woman walking along in a red dress and red hat, a blue bag, and the colors were so striking. So I thought, oh, okay, I'm gonna follow this woman for a little bit and see if I can create something interesting. She stopped at the intersection here, and I just took this photo. Nothing amazing about it. I don't particularly like it, but then I kept behind her.
Not being like stalker weirdo.
And moments later, I created this one where the colors just seem to connect. Now you may remember my video about color versus black and white. Here's the kind of picture where color really comes into its own. So the blue of her bag and the blue of the tiles forming that river thing there, and then the red of her dress and the red of the cracked tiles behind her created this connection where the person and the environment come together. And so compositionally, not the most amazing image, but in terms of the colors, I think it's kind of interesting. So, you know, I don't think it's one of my favorite images, but I do like the way that the colors actually did work together in this one. And then right at the end, this guy skating by, picked up the camera, had a snap. Nothing amazing about the photo, but hey, you know, not everyone's going to be a keeper. So that's the images that I came up with on the day. So that's probably altogether a period of about maybe 2.5 hours. But it certainly made me see that, oh, there's some areas I'd like to work a little bit more. There's definitely potential for some great images. I think I only took one that I really loved. That's the woman with the blonde hair in that playground setting. But it definitely made me excited to go back again to see what I can come up with. So I'm going to be back there tomorrow, and so fingers crossed I get something great. Now, if you're into street photography, obviously check out this video or this video. Subscribe if you're not already. Give the video a thumbs up, comment if there's anything that you liked about it or hated or whatever. Which image did you like the most? Let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.